if somebody handed you a Hollywood script about a championship sports final.
Right, like the biggest game in the world.
Exactly. And the climax of this script featured one team completely abandoning the actual sport. Like, just to start a literal fist fight on the field, you would probably just toss the script out.
Oh, for sure. You'd say it totally breaks the suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, you'd be like, professional athletes just do not act like that. Not on the biggest stage.
Right. I mean, we definitely feel way too heavy-handed for fiction. Because at the highest level of competition, the assumption is always that these athletes possess, an elite level of emotional control.
Right.
We expect intense rivalry, obviously, but we expect it to remain fundamentally professional.
Yeah, but today, we aren't looking at fiction. That exact crazy scenario is the documented reality of the historic 2026 World Cup final between Spain and Argentina.
It really is.
So welcome to the deep dive. For you listening, we've got a massive stack of material in front of us today. We are looking at post-match tactical reports, deep statistical analyses, and some really sweeping cultural commentary that emerged from the fallout of this explosive match.
There's so much to cover with this.
There really is, and our mission today is to figure out how this happened. We're going to explore the stark contrast between Spain's suffocating tactical triumph and, honestly, Argentina's shocking, full-scale emotional collapse.
It was a total meltdown.
It was. And beyond the immediate drama of the brawl, we want to examine what the mechanics of this match actually tell us about the passing of the torch to an entirely new generation in sports. So, okay, let's unpack this, because to make sense of anything, we have to start with the ending.
We do. You really cannot understand the tactical narrative of those 90 minutes without first looking at the absolute chaos that erupted, like the final whistle blew.
So just setting the scene for you here, Spain wins 1-0 in extra time.
A monumental achievement.
Right, it's their first World Cup victory in 16 years. The whistle blows, the Spanish players fled the pitch to celebrate, and instead of the opposing team walking off in defeat or, swapping jerseys like normal, the Argentine team has a complete and total meltdown.
Yeah, complete meltdown.
The post-match reports describe a scene that feels less like a soccer match and more like a sophisticated software system hitting a critical error. Like they just abandoned their complex programming and resorted to a crude brute force failsafe.
That is a very apt way to look at it.
They stopped running their tactical software and just started throwing physical hardware.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just pushing and shoving,
Wow.
The physical escalation was extreme. What's fascinating here is that...
Well, wait, let me just list what happened because it was wild.
Oh, go ahead.
Leandro Paredes, an Argentine midfielder, is literally documented choking and pushing the Spanish defender, Eric Garcia.
Unbelievable.
And then, when the young Spanish player Gavi tries to intervene, Paredes literally body slams him to the turf.
Yeah, an actual body slam.
Right.
On a football pitch.
Right. And over on another part of the pitch, Noel Molina is caught on camera punching Spain's captain, Rodri, right in the stomach.
Just completely losing it.
The referee actually had to pull out a red card after the match had ended to send Paredes off. The global football community immediately labeled them sore losers who just threw away their dignity.
Mm-hmm.
But reading through these play-by-plays, I keep getting stuck on the mechanics of it. Like, how does a team composed of world-class veteran players just entirely abandon the sport to start a street brawl?
Right, and what's fascinating here is that this post-game violence, it wasn't a sudden split-second loss of temper.
It wasn't.
No, if you dig into the match data, the physical aggression was actually the terminal symptom of a tactical breakdown that had been happening for 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, Argentina hadn't just lost their temper after the whistle. They had mentally and structurally lost the match long before extra time was even over.
Wait, so you're saying they were already unraveling during the actual run of play?
Entirely.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the offensive statistics. During the 90 minutes of regulation time, Argentina had 0 shots on target.
0. In a World Cup final.
0.
That almost defies statistical probability for a team of that caliber.
Exactly. And you have to ask why that happens. Spain didn't just put bodies in the penalty box. They employed this suffocating possession-based defense.
Right.
By keeping the ball moving in precise structural triangles, Spain essentially starved Argentina of oxygen.
Just keeping it completely away from them.
Yeah, when a highly aggressive team is systematically denied the ball, the frustration builds. Argentina started chasing shadows. And, when you chase shadows, you lose your positional discipline.
And when you lose positional discipline, you start committing fouls.
Precisely. The match reports show Argentina received 2 red cards during the match before the post-game brawl even occurred.
Oh, right. I remember that.
They realized they couldn't penetrate Spain's structure. So their tactical response morphed into purely trying to disrupt Spain through sheer physical aggression. They stopped trying to win a football match and started trying to win a fight.
But, if Argentina as a collective unit was completely losing their minds and abandoning their game plan, where was the leadership? Which brings us to the captain.
Yeah, the captain.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because you have this massive contrast. At 39 years old, everybody knew this was Lionel Messi's final World Cup.
The end of an era.
Right, and the tournament data shows he didn't just coast to the final on his reputation, he practically dragged them there. He put up 8 goals and 4 assists in the lead-up.
Incredible stats for his age.
But in this final match, the stats paint a very different picture. He only managed 54 touches on the ball. He was completely isolated.
And that isolation, that is a direct mechanical result of his own team's behavior. Think about the requirements of a playmaker like Messi. To operate, he needs rhythm, he needs structural flow, and he needs his teammates to hold their shape to create passing lanes.
Right, you can't thread a needle if the fabric is constantly being yanked around.
That's a great way to put it. By implementing a strategy of rough, destructive fouls, Argentina completely shattered the rhythm of the game. Every time they hacked the Spanish player down, the game stopped.
The whistle blows, everything resets.
Exactly, the flow died.
Yeah.
In their desperate attempt to drag Spain into a dogfight, Argentina effectively sabotaged their own captain. They cut off his supply lines and left him entirely unsupported against one of the most organized defenses in the world.
It's just a devastating irony. Like, they were presumably trying to aggressively protect their chance at a trophy, but those exact ugly tactics dismantled the very environment their legend needed to operate.
Yeah, it completely backfired.
And the post-match scene is just a tragic split screen. On one side of the pitch, you have teammates throwing punches and body slamming teenagers. And on the other side, Messi is in tears. He accepts his silver medal, and he's quoted saying, "Honestly, they played better."
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the international commentary we're analyzing uses a very specific term here. It's a profound gulituna, which translates from Chinese to a deep sense of fragmentation or a massive disconnect.
A disconnect between him and the team.
Exactly. It's the ultimate tragic hero narrative. You have a transcendent, dignified leader operating with total grace and defeat, surrounded by a squad that is actively dragging his final moment down into the mud.
He's basically a prisoner of his own team's emotional collapse. It's Shakespearean, honestly. He does everything in his power to lead, but the ecosystem around him just self-destructs.
And that fragmentation is vital to understand, because sports abhor a vacuum.
Oh, for sure.
When a reigning king's era tragically concludes, especially in a chaotic vacuum of leadership like this, a new entity immediately steps in to fill that void. Which brings us to Spain's young phenomenon, Lamine Yamal.
Yes. If Messi's exit was a tragedy, Yamal's entrance was a flat-out coronation. And he didn't exactly sneak onto the throne either.
No, he did not.
The coverage highlights a quote from Yamal before the match even kicked off. He publicly stated, "I will not only send off Ronaldo, but I will also send off Messi."
Bold words.
Very bold. And then he actually backs it up by scoring the historic game-winning goal in extra time. But I have to push back a little here.
Okay, what's your thought?
I read that quote and I thought, hold on, isn't that just massive, unadulterated arrogance? Like, if we are sitting here praising Messi for his quiet grace and humility, why are the analysts giving a teenager a pass for publicly disrespecting two of the greatest legends of the game before a ball is even kicked?
That is a completely fair challenge. It does sound abrasive on the surface, but the sports analysts in our stack, they frame it quite differently.
How so?
They don't view it as mere arrogance. They view it through the lens of what they call the natural order of sports, or tiandao
In natural order?
Right. The commentary argues that transitions of power at the absolute highest levels of competition are rarely, if ever, gentle. The old kings don't just politely hand over the crown, they have to be forcefully unseated.
So it's less about bad sportsmanship and more about, like, the ruthless confidence required to actually execute that transition.
Exactly. To step onto a pitch against a living legend and genuinely believe you're going to end their era, that requires an almost irrational level of self-belief.
It really does.
The commentators view the era of Messi and Ronaldo making way for the generation of Yamal and Highland as a fundamental law of athletic gravity. Yamal's goal in extra time wasn't just a point on a scoreboard. It was the undeniable physical proof of this natural law taking effect.
And it's fascinating how the commentators and the fans, they project their own cultural desire for order onto this transition.
Oh, absolutely.
When you read through the international reactions, they actually draw a direct spiritual parallel between the Spanish team's resilience on the pitch and the diligent governance of the Spanish king.
Yes, the nationalistic framing.
Right. They frame the victory as a restoration of national order. Now, just to be clear to you listening, we're impartially reporting what these sources are saying. We aren't endorsing this specific political framing, but it really shows you just how much ideological weight the audience was placing on this game.
It makes complete psychological sense why the fans would frame it that way, though.
You think so?
Yeah, human beings rely on contrast to make sense of narratives. When fans watched the Argentine team devolve into sheer chaos, violence, and disorder, they naturally sought to project the exact opposite values onto the victors.
Ah, I see. Order versus chaos.
Right, because Argentina represented anarchy in that moment, Spain was elevated, and by extension, their national symbols, like their king, as the ultimate representation of order, discipline, and certainty. The narrative basically became our philosophy of discipline triumphed over your chaos.
Which brings us to the most peculiar, but arguably the most insightful piece of analysis in our stack today.
The goalkeeper piece.
Yes. We've talked about Spain's tactical structure, and we've talked about the ideological projection of order. But on a purely psychological level, how did Spain actually weather that storm of physical aggression without snapping back?
It's a great question.
The commentary answers this by looking at the Spanish goalkeeper, and they use a really specific, fascinating piece of internet slang.
Yeah, the analysts point out that for long stretches of this brutal match, the Spanish goalkeeper was essentially idle. He literally had nothing to do.
Right, because of the 0 shots on target.
Exactly. And the explanation for his idleness isn't just about his physical positioning. It's deeply psychological, rooted in how the opponent was behaving.
Right. The original commentary calls the Argentine players yellow hairs.
Such an interesting term.
It is. Now, for context for you listening, this is a translation of a specific Chinese internet slang term, huang mao, which is basically shorthand for a rebellious, emotionally unregulated street punk.
A delinquent, essentially.
Yeah, a delinquent who acts purely on impulse rather than logic.
It's a brilliant conceptual tool. By labeling the Argentine mindset as yellow hair, the analysts are diagnosing a specific type of psychological failure.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Well, when an athlete is consumed by a rebellious, unregulated mindset, their field of vision literally and metaphorically narrows. You stop seeing the broader architecture of the game.
You get tunnel vision.
Exactly. You aren't scanning for passing lanes anymore. You're just looking for an immediate physical outlet for your frustration. You're looking for someone to hit.
It's exactly like playing a video game against someone who is losing badly, and they just stop trying to complete the objective and start mashing the controller buttons out of pure rage.
That's the perfect analogy.
Because Argentina was entirely consumed by this chaotic yellow hair mindset, they fundamentally stopped trying to score goals, which explains the 0 shots on target. They were playing a different, much smaller game.
Precisely. And this is where Spain's true brilliance lies. They engaged in a form of asymmetrical warfare. When an opponent shifts from playing the sport to attacking you personally, the natural human instinct is to retaliate, to get angry, to defend your honor, to hit back.
Because you want to match their energy. It's just human nature.
Exactly. But Spain didn't do that. They realized that absolute disciplined passivity is actually the most devastating weapon you have against an emotional opponent.
Wow.
The goalkeeper's idleness was the ultimate proof of this. Spain just maintained their structural shape and let Argentina punch themselves out.
So what does this all mean? When you pull these threads together, the greatest defense Spain played in this World Cup final wasn't a specific tackle or like a miraculous save.
No, it wasn't.
It was the collective refusal to take the bait. They simply allowed the opponent to defeat themselves through emotional exhaustion.
It's a masterclass in emotional regulation, and this raises an important question for anyone analyzing high-stakes environments.
What's the question?
How do true champions behave when the environment becomes completely toxic? When the opposition turns a structured environment into a brawl? Victory doesn't go to the team that fights the hardest. It goes to the side that simply remembers what game they're actually there to play.
I love that. And honestly, for you listening, the applications of this go way beyond a soccer pitch. Psychologists talk about this concept called emotional contagion.
Oh yeah, emotional contagion is huge.
It's the phenomenon where panic or anger spreads rapidly through a group. We all face these pressure cooker situations in life, you know? Maybe it's a tense boardroom meeting where someone starts raising their voice.
Or a difficult negotiation that turns personal.
Exactly. Or just navigating a chaotic environment. The chaos always tries to pull you in. Someone in your life starts acting like yellow hair, losing their emotional control, and they try to drag you down into their mess so they don't have to be dysregulated alone.
Misery loves company.
Exactly. Spain's victory here is the ultimate reminder that the most powerful thing you can do is hold your shape. Maintain your structure when everyone else is losing their heads, and just let the emotional contagion burn itself out against your discipline.
It really is the ultimate competitive advantage. You don't have to outfight the chaos. You just have to outlast it by staying focused on the objective.
Exactly. So just to quickly recap the ground we've covered today, we looked at a historic match defined by two massive extremes. We unpacked the tragic, tearful exit of Lionel Messi, a dignified leader whose final moment was compromised not by the opponent, but by his own team's descent into unregulated aggression.
A really tough way to go out.
It was. And on the flip side, we witnessed the historic coronation of a new generation led by Lamine Yamal, proving that mental discipline and structural focus will always outlast blind emotional hooliganism.
It is a truly phenomenal case study. And, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on the tragedy of Messi's final stand.
Okay, let's hear it.
We saw him acting with total grace, while his team completely unraveled around him. It begs a really difficult question about the nature of leadership.
Oh, this is good.
If one of the most respected captains in the history of sports couldn't stop his own team from losing their emotional maturity on the biggest stage, is true leadership about having the power to control the collective? Or, when the environment completely fails and things truly fall apart, is leadership simply about knowing how to maintain your own personal grace as the ship goes down?
Man, that is a heavy question. It completely shifts the entire expectation of what a captain is supposed to do.
It does, doesn't it?
Sometimes you can't save the ship, but you can control how you stand on the deck. And that takes us right back to where we started, a scenario that feels way too dramatic for a movie script, but played out in reality right in front of the world. It honestly teaches us a lot more about human psychology than just football.
Absolutely.
Well, keep questioning the narratives around you, keep looking for the why behind the chaos, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.